Under the fading rose-gold light of a Montana sunset, the little frontier town of Rattlespur slowed to its familiar sleepy hush, dust swirling in lazy ribbons as lanterns crackled to life along the wooden boardwalks. Inside the Buckhorn Saloon, the air smelled of pine smoke and cinnamon whiskey, tables crowded with weary ranch hands shaking the chill from their bones. At the counter sat a stranger, coat frayed at the seams, boots worn pale, head bowed over a near-empty plate of stew he clearly couldn't afford. Folks threw him brief glances, cautious ones, but no one said a word. Except for one, Ellis Warren, a quiet rancher known for his broad shoulders, worn hat and eyes as gentle as the morning wheat fields. He noticed the stranger's trembling fingers, the way hunger hollowed his cheeks, and felt something pull at his chest, something like compassion disguised as instinct. Without hesitation, Ellis rose, walked to the bar, and laid a few coins down. "Put his bill on mine," he murmured. The bartender blinked, surprised, but nodded. When the stranger lifted his head, surprised, thankful, near speechless, Ellis offered only a modest nod. "You look like you could use a meal." The stranger swallowed hard. Thank you, sir." "Hard times." Ellis didn't pry. He merely tipped his hat and turned toward the door, intending to head home before the storm rumored to be rolling off the mountains. But as he stepped outside, he saw something he didn't expect. A young woman humming to herself gently beneath the starlight, brushing snow off the saloon's porch rail, a shawl hugging her slender form. Her auburn hair glowed like embers, and her eyes, soft amber, caught his the moment he looked her way. Her name was Mara, the innkeeper's daughter, though most simply knew her as the girl whose smile made the tired feel rested. She'd seen Ellis's kindness through the window, and as he passed, she spoke with a warmth that melted the cold between them. "Most folks look the other way," she said quietly. "Not you," Ellis shrugged, suddenly shy beneath her gaze. "Sometimes we're given more than we need. Doesn't hurt to share." Mara wrapped her shawl tighter, cheeks blooming pink, not from cold, but something gentler. "A warm heart is rarer than gold out here." Her words fluttered in his chest. Snow began to drift in slow, swirling flakes. "You headed home?" she asked. Ellis nodded. "Storm's comin'. Long ride?" Mara looked down, twisting the end of her shawl. "We've rooms open tonight. Warm bed, stew, fire crackling." "You shouldn't ride out in this." Ellis hesitated. He lived miles out, too far in bad weather. And though he was no stranger to harsh nights, something about the invitation, about her, felt different. "I don't want to trouble nobody," he said. Mara's smile brightened. "It wouldn't be trouble." And so, inside the small lodge connected to the saloon, Ellis found himself in a room glowing with lantern light, a fire dancing quietly, casting gold across the walls. Mara carried blankets over her arm, their fabric smelling faintly of lavender. "Storm's worse than expected," she murmured, setting them down. "You'll freeze riding home." Ellis nodded again, voice soft. "Thank you kindly." When she turned to go, he found the courage to speak, surprising even himself. "You have a gift," he said. Mara paused. "Gift? You make people feel warm without touching the fire." Her expression softened, and she stepped closer, hesitant yet drawn as if pulled by gravity. "No one's ever put it like that." She sat by the fire and motioned for him to join. Snow drummed harder against the panes, wind howling like wolves in the canyon, yet inside, the warmth wrapped around them like a quilt. They talked, softly, naturally, about ranch life, lost parents, simple dreams. Ellis learned Mara wanted to travel someday, maybe open a bakery near a river where wheat danced and children laughed. Mara learned Ellis carried the weight of a ranch alone after his family passed, working dawn to dusk with no voice to share dinner with. Silence fell, not cold but comfortable, the kind shared by people who already felt safe without understanding why. Mara glanced at his hands, rough, calloused, but gentle as they rested on his knees. "You deserve warmth too, Ellis," she whispered. He swallowed, breath shallow, heart stumbling in his chest. "Sometimes I forget." With a tender boldness, Mara reached out and laid her hand over his. Heat blossomed between them, as if the fire itself leaned close to listen. "Don't," she said softly. The storm roared, but neither flinched. They sat like that, hand in hand, letting silence speak truth's words couldn't. Finally, Mara stood, pulling a folded quilt from a cedar chest. The beds warmed. I heated bricks by the stove and wrapped them. Should keep the sheets cozy. Ellis blinked, stunned by the gesture. You didn't have to go through that trouble. Mara's smile turned shy. Maybe I wanted to. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Lantern light glimmered in her eyes, and in that quiet space, something tender bloomed. She stepped closer, voice low. You walked through the world giving warmth today, Ellis, paying that stranger's bill. Not asking why, just caring. Ellis's voice was barely audible. Felt right. It was, Mara replied, and the world needs more men like that. His heart thundered. Mara lifted her hand and brushed a stray snowflake, melted now off his shoulder, fingertips lingering. The warmth of her touch was gentle, delicate, careful. Sleep well tonight, she whispered. Let yourself rest. Ellis caught her hand gently, cradling it as though it were glass. Thank you for seeing me. Her breath trembled and she squeezed his fingers. Maybe I'd like to keep seeing you. Not just tonight. The words hung, fragile and hopeful. Ellis nodded once, slowly. I'd like that. Outside thunder rumbled, but inside only the soft crackle of the fire answered. Mara stepped back, pausing in the doorway of the small room, shawl slipping slightly from her shoulder. Good night, Ellis. Good night, Mara. And with one last look, warm, silent promise, she pulled the door gently closed. Ellis climbed into the bed, and warmth, real warmth, soaked into his bones, the bricks, the blankets, the memory of her touch. He hadn't felt this safe in years. As sleep pulled him under, he knew the storm wasn't something to fear anymore. Because maybe storms existed, so hearts could find shelter together. When morning's pale gold light slipped through the curtains, Mara returned with fresh bread and a shy smile. Ellis sat up, hair tousled, voice thick with sleep. Morning, she laughed softly at the sight. You look peaceful. Warm bed'll do that, he grinned, though both knew it wasn't just the bed. They shared breakfast by the fire, talking again, slower now, savoring each second. Finally, when the storm clouds cleared and Ellis saddled his horse, Mara walked with him to the door. You'll come back? She asked, voice a whisper lost in the morning chill. Ellis tipped his hat, eyes locked to hers. If you'll have me. She stepped closer, laying a hand gently on his arm. I'll keep a room warm just for you. And as he rode out, heart fuller, lighter, brighter than it had been in years, he knew he'd return, not for shelter, but for the woman whose warmth could melt any winter.